Welcome, Isabel.
Good evening, Kev. Where are we beginning this evening?
I hardly know where to. Well, listen, I'll tell you what, we're going to start with this copper, the top cop of Essex, name of Ben Julian Harrington. He's got a lot of form. We'll talk about his background a little later. But let's just talk about the Epping protests that have been unfolding for more than a week now. Well, look, I couldn't tell the story really better than Nigel Farage, who's put this video onto social media. Take a look.
Have a look at this video.
If these are locals, why are they getting in a police car? Where time's the next bus? You wait 15 minutes for a bus and then 3 come all along at once. Look, they're all cramming in.
This shows Stand Up to Racism, as they're called, with Antifa, a violent, thuggish group, arriving at the train station and literally, by Essex Police, being bussed to the Bell Hotel. These were the people that caused the disturbances. These were the people that caused the riots. Essex Police caused the disturbances. What on earth were Essex Police thinking? Is it that they just hate so much ordinary residents determined to stand up for their own rights? I don't know the answer to that question. What I do know is what Essex Police have done here is absolutely disgraceful. One of the most extraordinary acts I've seen from the police force in my lifetime. And for bussing Antifa, oh, and by the way, many of them masked protesters, for doing this, heads must roll. There is no way the Chief Constable or the Police and Crime Commissioner in Essex can stay in their posts. This is a disgrace.
Now, Mr. Farage's fury, very clear there. Now, that footage at the beginning of that video quite clearly, in my view, showed these Antifa, these stand up to racism, you know, refugees welcome idiots, masked, violent, left-wing thugs climbing into police vans. Now, witnesses, we've been covering this now for a week or so. Witnesses last Thursday told us they were driven into the middle of the fray, where mainly peaceful local protesters were making their views known, their fears and worries known about the local asylum seeker hotel, the Bell Hotel. Now, these lefties were driven straight into the middle of them. This is what witnesses told us. Anyway, today, Mr. Ben Julian Harrington, the Chief Constable of Essex, held a press conference, quite clearly squirming, trying to say, "What? Not me, Gov, didn't do anything wrong." Well, this is what he said about what people have been saying about these left-wing agitators being driven into the middle of the protest. Have a look.
I mean, there's been some accusation in the media that we drove people to the protest. That is not true. We have not driven anybody to that protest. People made their own way there. And of course, one of the accusations and one of the things circulated is we did take people away for their safety, for the safety of everyone there, because it was the best operational thing to do to prevent violence, to diffuse the situation. We drove them away from a violent confrontation.
I think the question there, Isabel, it just has to be, as I said in my monologue, is he telling the truth there, or is he lying? I mean, either way, something went badly wrong here. The Essex Police made a complete mess of this. And we have so many witnesses telling us that those left-wing agitators with their masks and their violent intent and their placards, refugees welcome, stand up to racism, were driven into the middle of the protest by the police. If not, you know, they say they were driven. Now, if we give them the benefit of the doubt, they were certainly escorted into the middle of the fray. That is not the way to police a demonstration like that. He's been saying, oh, well, you know, the most important thing for the police is to facilitate the public's right to protest. No, no, no. The most important thing for the police, in terms of the public, is to keep the public safe. You don't keep the public safe by bussing a load of left-wing lunatics, violent thugs, into the middle of a peaceful demonstration, do you?
This has all the makings of a massive scandal, because it ought to be very possible to launch our own detailed investigation into who is telling the truth here. Surely there's plenty of CCTV. I'm sure whether Essex Police will be particularly keen to cooperate with an investigation into themselves remains to be seen. But it ought to be more than possible to prove it one way or the other. And even if they were busing people away, you know, were they only busing one set of political campaigners away from that site, or was it an even-handed busing away of people from a trouble spot? Either way, this is extremely murky, isn't it? And you know, such is the loss of trust, isn't it? Public trust in the police and their way of handling these things, that I think people are entitled to feel pretty gaslighted, or if that's a word, gaslit. You know, we've got the police complaining about far-right thugs, we've got the Prime Minister complaining about far-right thugs, and then what emerges? It's actually hard left-wing agitators who are being brought to the centre of very sensitive demonstrations. I mean, who thought that was going to end well?
So my interpretation of this is left-wing police officers helping their left-wing agitator friends. That's what's going on here. I've seen these pro-Palestine marches. The police are pro-Palestine, anti-Israel. And I think up in Epping, they were pro-left, anti-right. And they think that the local protesters, there were a few right-wing agitators there as well. That's what happens at these events. Mostly, it was local mums, dads, grandparents worried about safety on the streets, worried about their kids and worried about safety for women in particular, because one of those asylum seekers from Ethiopia arrived on June the 29th and within 2 days was charged with 3 sexual assaults on local women. He denies those charges. However, that is enough to get a local community extremely agitated. Busing a bunch of masked left-wing thugs into the middle of that, I don't think that was very good policing. Do you know what he also said? This bloke, this guy, Ben Julian Harrington, he was asked at this sort of impromptu press conference, any regret among Essex Police's top brass, given the well-known hostilities between the two protest groups and the likelihood of tensions erupting? This is what he said. It's not for me to comment or try and criticise or examine that operation. You're the Chief Constable of Essex. It is exactly for you to do that. Who is this guy? What the hell is he talking about?
Well, are we going to talk a little bit about the other blunders by this police?
Well, of course. Well, let's get going. I mean, this is a woke copper. This is a classic woke copper. When we moan, as we do with monotonous regularity, about the dreadful state of policing in this country, I think we do a great disservice to thousands and thousands of decent police officers who just want to do their job. But they are led by donkeys like this guy, Ben Julian Harrington, woke top coppers who lead all of our coppers astray. This is so we know that this is the guy that sent 2 constables round to the house of our friend and colleague, Telegraph columnist Alison Pearson, on Remembrance Sunday morning, 9:30 in the morning, to warn her that she was under investigation about a problematical tweet that she'd put out a year ago. There was no problem with it whatsoever. What on earth? And he later said that that activity, that action by the cops was totally justified. No, it wasn't, Mr. Harrington. It was a disgrace, just like your handling of that demonstration in Epping. Utter disgrace. Nigel Farage is right. Check this out. This is what he said about hate crime. He's obsessed with hate crimes. Essex Police, by the way, Mr. Harrington presides over, ooh, drum roll, you'll get excited by this, a 13% success rate in solving crimes. So 87% of crimes in Essex under his auspices do not get solved. He also is responsible for the arrest, this sounds a bit odd, but statistically it works out, of 1.3 people every day for hate crimes. You see what I mean? So obviously he doesn't arrest a third of a person, but statistically that's how it works out. This is what he said in 2021 in a document that he produced. Essex Police have identified 14 thematic stands which not only pose the greatest potential threat, harm and risk to our people and communities, but also present the greatest opportunity for prevention. He's talking about hate crimes. He thinks hate crimes are the greatest threat to the community in Essex. This guy isn't fit to run a bath, let alone a major police force.
But I think the guy's position is untenable. That is what Nigel Farage has said. It's what a number of other leading political figures have said this evening. I can't say that I've examined all the footage and all the testimony of everybody, but if there are multiple witnesses to these left-wingers being bussed in, and there does seem to be some pretty compelling footage of it, we already had serious questions to ask about this guy's judgment before this happened. And, you know, it is just the height of irresponsibility to deliberately facilitate that kind of clash between rival political camps, if you like. And I hesitate to call the majority of the people who were at that protest, who weren't bussed in or bussed out, political, because they won't be. They won't be party political at all. They are ordinary people who just want to get on with their lives in a nice community, you know, doing the right thing, working hard, etc., etc. You know, if you ask them, do they support one party or another, probably most of them aren't sure what they support. What they don't support is having a bunch of unknown young men brought into their community who then go on to commit heinous crimes. And it's hardly as if this is a one-off, even in the last few days. I mean, very interesting breaking news from Lee Anderson this evening.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. Yeah, go on.
I don't know if we're going to come to cover that, but he has issued the most extraordinary post on social media where he talks about a terrible alleged crime in his constituency by an asylum seeker. I'm afraid it is the worst kind of alleged sexual assault on a young woman. And the MP was asked by the police to keep quiet about it. And he's decided, screw that, I'm not keeping quiet about it. We've all had enough of this nonsense.
There is no legal imperative for Lee to remain silent about that. He was told by the police you might affect the trial. They've got to stop this. They've got to stop this. Threatening the people of this country, oh, you're going to ruin the trial. You can't ruin a trial until someone's in court. You can't do that. So that is nonsense. Before we go to break, we'll have a proper look at Lee after the break, actually. Before we do go to break, though, this is, again, Ben Julian Harrington at this press conference today. He was asked whether or not he would resign. I bet you can't guess how he answered, but let's have a quick look.
If you're not apologising, are you going to follow the demands of some politicians in this country who have called you to resign over this?
No, I'm not. I'm not going to do that. And this is not about me. This is about the communities of Essex, is what I spoke about earlier. You know, the communities that are disrupted, the legitimate people who want to go and protest outside that hotel, and I make no observation of that view of that. If they're peaceful and lawful, they want to express their views. That is their right, and this is important that within the laws of this country, the Essex Police allow that to take place. I come back to the point where people break the law, where they smash up police vans, where they assault workers from the hotel, where they are chasing people away. Those are the people that we will not tolerate.
Yeah, meanwhile, the police commissioner of Essex said that he is determined to uphold the dignity of the asylum seekers who are held in hotels in that county. This is just ridiculous. Let me ask you, the wonderful audience, I mean, should this guy, Ben Julian Harrington, should he be in charge of a major police force like Essex? Do you believe him when he suddenly says, oh, no, we didn't drive them in there into the fray, we drove them out? Really? Really? I'm not so sure.